You know what it's like to wake up one day and discover that the time you always thought you had is gone? That feeling that there will always be a tomorrow, always another chance, always later, was just an illusion? You worked your whole life, chased everything you thought was important, told yourself you'd do those things you really wanted someday, spend time with loved ones, really live. But that day never came, did it? And now you look back and see a long road of days that repeated themselves, weeks that flew by, years that evaporated while you were too busy to notice. I lived exactly that. I spent 73 years thinking I had all the time in the world, and then, on a regular Tuesday, sitting in a sterile-smelling doctor's office, my doctor looked at me with those pity-filled eyes and told me I had, at most, 2 years. 2 years. 73 years living like time was infinite, and suddenly an expiration date. And you know what destroyed me the most? It wasn't the fear of death. It was realizing everything I'd wasted while I was too busy living the wrong way. I'm 75 now. I got that diagnosis 2 years ago. As you've probably figured out, by the doctor's calculations, I should be dead already. But here I am, and every extra day I have is a gift I don't deserve. But I'm using it to tell you something that could change your life if you just really listen. Because for 73 years, I lived one way, and for the last 2, I've lived a completely different way. And the cruel irony, the universe's sick joke, is that these last 2 years have been better, fuller, more real than all 73 previous years combined. And that tears me apart when I think about how much I threw away. I'll tell you exactly how it happened. It was March. I remember it perfectly because I'd just gotten back from a business trip. Another one. 73 years old and still traveling for meetings I didn't even want to be at. I started feeling a pain in my chest that wouldn't go away, a dry cough that woke me up at night. My wife, Mary, begged me to see a doctor. I waited 3 weeks. 3 weeks telling myself it was just fatigue, that it would pass, that I was fine. See how we fool ourselves, how we pretend everything's okay until we can't pretend anymore. When I finally went, it was too late. Lung cancer, advanced stage. The doctor, a young man probably in his 40s, looked at me and said those words I'll hear until the day I die. 2 years, maybe less, with aggressive treatment. Maybe 6 months without it. I walked out of that office and drove for hours without a destination. My wife called 10 times. I didn't answer. I ended up stopping at a park where I used to take my kids when they were little. They're 48 and 45 now. I sat on an old bench, looked at the rusty swing set, and started to cry. A 73-year-old man crying alone in an empty park. And you know why I was crying? It wasn't fear of dying. It was regret. A regret so deep, so devastating, it felt like it was going to swallow me whole. Because in that moment, for the first time in my life, I truly looked back and saw with total clarity everything I had done wrong. And you know what still hurts the most? Realizing I'm not alone in this. I'm sure you have your regrets too. Things you wish you'd done differently. Tell me in the comments. If you had 2 years left to live, what would you change? You can just write, if I had 2 years left, I would change. And finish it. Sometimes just putting it into words helps us start to process what really matters. And you know what? Your comment might help someone else going through the same thing right now, someone who still has time to change before they get a diagnosis like mine. So tell me, what would you change? Because the truth they don't tell you when you're young is this: you think you have time. We all do. I'll call my mom tomorrow. Next month, I'll take that family vacation. Next year, I'll start doing that thing I've always wanted to do. When I retire, then I'll really live. It's all a lie. A gigantic lie we tell ourselves every day until suddenly there's no more tomorrow, no more next month, no more next year. And then you realize you've spent your entire life putting off everything that truly mattered while chasing things that, in the end, mean nothing. I worked 52 years of my life. 52 years. I started at 21, retired at 73, 3 weeks before the diagnosis. Can you imagine the irony? I spent 5 decades rushing, stressing, losing sleep, sacrificing weekends, holidays, birthdays, all for work. And for what? To have enough money to enjoy when I retired, for security, to leave something for my kids. Lies I told myself to justify choosing the office over the living room, choosing meetings over school plays, choosing email over hugs. I'll give you a concrete example. My oldest son, David, was 9 when he got the lead role in the school play. He was so excited, he called me at the office to tell me I could hear the joy in his voice. The play was on a Thursday at 7 p.m. I promised I'd be there. He made me promise 3 times. On the day, an important client came up who could only meet at that exact time. I called my wife, asked her to explain to David that I'd have to miss this one, but I'd make it up to him. You know how many times I use that phrase, "I'll make it up to you, I'll make it up to you," as if lost time could be made up for, as if you could deposit moments into a bank account and withdraw them later with interest. David did the play. It was a success. My wife taped it. I watched it 3 weeks later on a night I got home early. 10 minutes of shaky video. I saw my son up on stage, looking out at the audience, searching for my face that wasn't there, and I thought, how silly. He won't even remember this when he grows up. But he remembered. 28 years later, when I told him about the cancer, you know what he said to me? He said, "Dad, do you remember my 4th grade play?" I said I did. He said, "I looked for you in the audience all night. After the play, all my friends went out with their dads, took pictures, went for pizza. Mom took me home and I cried in the car." And you know what I learned that day? That work will always be more important to you than I am. He was 37 when he told me that. He'd carried that for 28 years. You see how we fool ourselves? I thought I was building a better future for my kids. I was, in fact, building a chasm I could never fully bridge. I gave them money. I gave them education. I gave them opportunities. I didn't give them time. I didn't give them presence. And now, with 2 years left on the clock when I got the diagnosis, I suddenly had all the time in the world. But they were already adults with their own lives, their own kids, their own regrets being made. My daughter, Caroline, it's even worse with her. She's 45, and we barely talk. We don't fight. There's no drama, no anger. Worse than that, there's indifference, because I simply wasn't there when she was a child and a teenager. I was physically present sometimes, but mentally always at work, always worried about the next project, the next client, the next promotion. She stopped trying to connect with me around 15. She just gave up. And I didn't even notice because I was too busy. When I told her about the cancer, she cried. But you know that kind of crying. It wasn't from pain at the impending loss of her father. It was grief for something that had already died a long time ago, for the relationship we never had, and that now, with an expiration date on my life, we never would. She hugged me and said, "Dad, I wish I'd really known you." And that tore me apart because I was right there, alive, present, but she was right. She didn't know me, and I didn't know her. 52 years working to give my daughter a better life, and in the end, I lost the chance to truly know who she was. Let me tell you about my wife then, Mariana. We've been married for 49 years. She's 70 now, still beautiful, still patient, still by my side, even after I've been a mediocre husband for most of those 49 years. I wasn't a bad husband. I didn't cheat, I didn't drink, I didn't hit her, I didn't do any of those terrible things that obviously destroy marriages. I did something worse. I was absent. I was always there, but never really present. I looked at her, but I didn't see. I heard, but I didn't listen. We shared a bed, but we lived separate lives. After the diagnosis one night, I couldn't sleep. I woke up and went to the living room. She followed me, sat down next to me, and we just sat there in silence for hours. Suddenly she started crying, and when I asked her why, she said something that haunts me to this day. She said, "I've spent 49 years waiting for you to really see me, waiting for you to ask me how my day was and actually care about the answer, waiting for you to look at me the way you looked at work emails, with complete attention. And now that you're finally here, truly present, we don't have any more time." Do you know how many times I told my wife I loved her during the first 47 years of our marriage? She counted. She actually counted 63 times. 63 times in 47 years. That's about once every 8 months. In the last 2 years since the diagnosis, I say it every day, multiple times a day. And the difference isn't just the frequency, it's the fact that now, when I say it, I actually mean it. Before it was automatic, mechanical. Now, it's real, visceral, even desperate. Because I finally understood that she won't be here forever. And more importantly, that I won't be here forever. You want to know the most pathetic part? I knew these truths intellectually. Everyone knows they're going to die someday. Everyone knows the people they love will die too. But knowing and feeling are two completely different things. For 73 years, I knew I was going to die. For the last 2, I feel that I'm going to die. And that difference has changed absolutely everything. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Jorge. We worked together for 30 years. We were pretty close, or at least we thought we were. We'd grab lunch together, complain about the same bosses, dream about retirement together. He retired 2 years before I did. He had it all planned out perfectly. He was going to travel with his wife, meet his grandkids, finally do all those things he'd put off his whole life. He died 3 months after retiring, brain aneurysm. He was washing his car on a Saturday morning and just dropped. 71 years of life, 35 years of work, 3 months of retirement. I went to his funeral. I looked at that casket and thought, that's not going to happen to me. I'm going to enjoy my retirement. I'll do it differently. And you know what I did? I kept working 3 more years because there was always one more project, one more thing to finish, one more goal to achieve. Jorge's wife, Rosa, she found me at the funeral. She was devastated, of course, but there was also an anger in her eyes I'd never seen before. She grabbed my arm, squeezed tight, and said, Don't make the same mistake Jorge did. He spent his whole life waiting to truly live, and when he finally could, time ran out. Don't be an idiot like he was. I didn't listen. Can you believe it? A widow just gave me the most important advice of my life, and I just ignored it. Because I was different. I was smart. I knew what I was doing. 3 years later, my doctor was giving me 2 years to live. And guess what? I became exactly what Rosa had warned me not to be. An idiot. You want to know what I did with those last 2 years I had left? The complete opposite of everything I did in the previous 73. I stopped worrying about things that don't matter. I stopped trying to impress people I don't know. I stopped accumulating money I won't be able to take with me. I stopped postponing difficult conversations. I stopped pretending I had time. I started calling my kids every day. At first, they were weirded out. Dad, is everything okay? Why are you calling again? I explained that I wanted to know about their lives, the small victories, the everyday problems, everything. Gabrielle resisted at first. The distance I created doesn't disappear overnight. But I persisted. And slowly, very slowly, we started building something we never had. A real relationship. With Caroline, it was harder. 45 years of absence can't be fixed in 2 years or even 10. But we tried. I started asking about her life, her dreams, her fears. I found out she always wanted to be a writer, but became a lawyer because she thought that's what I expected of her. I found out she's had anxiety since she was 14, but never told anyone because I always said emotional problems were just drama. I found out she's an incredible person I never knew because I was too busy pretending to be important at work. And my wife, Mariana, in the last 2 years, we've talked more than in the 47 before that combined. I ask about her day, and I actually listen to the answer. I look her in the eyes when she speaks. I hold her hand when we watch TV. I thank her for the small things, for staying, for not giving up on me when she had every reason to, for still looking at me with love even after I wasted so much time we could have had together. You know what we do now? Absurdly simple things. We eat breakfast together, no rush. We walk in the park. We sit on the couch and talk about nothing and everything. We laugh. We cry. We live. And I think, why the heck did it take me 73 years to discover that this simplicity, this present moment, is all that ever mattered? You want to know the brutal truth I learned? Here it is. Everything you think matters doesn't. That promotion you're chasing doesn't matter. That new car doesn't matter. The bigger house doesn't matter. The fat bank account doesn't matter. Not when you're lying in a hospital bed realizing the clock is finally out of time. In that moment, and I'm speaking from experience because I've had several such moments in the last 2 years, you don't think about money. You don't think about career achievements. You don't think about material possessions. You think about people. You think about moments. You think about the conversations you didn't have, the hugs you didn't give, the I love yous you swallowed because you were too busy, too proud, or too distracted. You think about the time you threw away chasing things that in the end were just illusions. And you'd give anything, absolutely everything you accumulated over a lifetime for one more day, one more hour, one more minute with the people you love. Let me ask you a few questions and be honest with yourself because no one else is hearing your answers but you. When was the last time you really talked to your parents? Not a quick 5-minute call to tick a box. A real conversation where you asked how they are, what they're feeling, if they're scared of getting old, if they have regrets. When was the last time you hugged your father or your mother and just stayed there, feeling the hug, with no rush to leave? My father died when I was 52. He was 77. In the last 10 years of his life, I saw him maybe 30 times. Always rushed, always in a hurry, always promising that next visit we'd talk more. He died on a Sunday morning. I was on a business trip. I arrived for the funeral. I looked at that face I hadn't seen in 4 months and realized I knew nothing about the last few years of his life. I didn't know if he was happy. I didn't know if he was scared. I didn't know what his regrets were. I didn't know because I never asked. I was too busy being important. My mother is still alive. She's 81. For the last 2 years since her diagnosis, I visit her every week. We sit on her porch and talk about everything, about nothing. She tells me stories from her childhood that I'd never heard. I talk about my fears, about the cancer, about my regret for being an absent son. And you know what she told me once? She said, "Son, you're here now. That's what matters." But I know she held on to her too, not in an obvious way, in a quiet way. How many of her birthdays did I miss? How many family Sundays did I skip because of work? She never complained, but I saw it in her eyes. I always saw it, that sadness of a mother who raised a son who grew up and forgot she exists. And your children? If you have kids, when was the last time you really played with them? No phone in hand, no half your mind at work, no rush. Just you and them, present in the moment. When was the last time you truly looked at them and thought about who they're becoming, about their dreams, about their fears? I have 4 grandchildren now, 2 from Gabriel, 2 from Carolina. The oldest is 12, the youngest is 5. In the first 73 years of my life, I was that grandfather who showed up on Christmas and birthdays with expensive gifts and empty conversations. In the last 2 years, I've become a different kind of grandfather, the kind who takes them to the park, who plays, who listens, who genuinely cares. My 5-year-old granddaughter Laura told me something last week that made me cry. She hugged me and said, "Grandpa, I like you more now than before." I asked why. She said, "Because before you just gave presents. Now you play with me." A 5-year-old child managed to articulate something that took me 73 years to understand. Presence is worth more than presents. Time is worth more than money. Attention is worth more than anything you can buy. But here's the part that really haunts me. My oldest grandson, Pedro, is 12. That's the age Gabriel was when I missed his first school play. And you know what I see? I see Gabriel repeating my mistakes. He works too much, gets home late, spends weekends on his laptop. And Pedro, just like Gabriel was as a kid, is starting to stop waiting for his dad. He's starting that silent giving up that destroys families without anyone noticing until it's too late. I tried talking to Gabriel about it. He looked at me and said, "Dad, I have to work. I have bills to pay, college to save for, a future to build." The same words I used, the same excuses, the same lies. And I didn't know what to say because how can I, the man who wasted 73 years making the exact same mistake, convince him he's wrong? You know the cruelest lie our society sells? That sacrifice is worth it. That working yourself to death today will guarantee happiness tomorrow. That you can postpone life, postpone love, postpone presence, And then, when you have enough money, enough security, enough success, then you can finally live. It's the biggest lie ever told, because the later never comes. There's always one more goal, one more objective, one more thing to achieve before you can finally relax and enjoy. I fell for that lie. I worked from 21 to 73 waiting for later. And later came in the form of a cancer diagnosis. Later was a doctor telling me I had 2 years. That was my later. And I look back and see a long road of wasted days, of lost moments, of ungiven love, of unlived life. And I see my children starting the same journey, and the next generation after them, an infinite cycle of people postponing happiness until there's no time left to be happy. If I could talk to my 30-year-old self, you know what I'd say. Stop trying to impress people you don't know with money you don't have by buying things you don't need. Stop thinking your job defines your worth. Stop measuring success by promotions and salary bumps. Stop postponing important conversations. Stop waiting for the right time, because the right time is now. It always was now. It always will be now. And I'd start doing this. Start calling your parents every week. Start having dinner with your family without your phone at the table. Start asking how the people you love are really doing and listen to the answer. Start hugging more. Start saying, I love you, like it's the last time, because one day it will be, and you won't know it beforehand. Start choosing people over things. Start living like your time is limited, because it is, for all of us. You know what I learned in these extra 2 years I was given? I learned that happiness isn't in the future. It never was. It was always here, available, waiting for me to stop running long enough to notice. It's in slow mornings with coffee and conversation. It's in aimless drives. It's in looking into the eyes of someone you love and truly seeing them. It's in laughing at silly things. It's in crying together. It's in being present. Completely, totally present. And the most ironic, most absurd, most cruelly funny thing about it all? I am happier now, with terminal cancer, with constant pain, with the certainty of impending death, than I was at any point in the previous 73 years when I had perfect health and decades ahead of me. Because now I finally get it. Now I've finally woken up. Now I'm finally living instead of just existing. But the price of this lesson was too high. 73 years of life squandered, damaged relationships that will never be fully repaired, lost moments that will never come back, memories that were never made, all because I believed the lie that I had time, that later would be enough, that I could make up for it. Let me tell you about a typical Tuesday 3 months ago. I woke up in pain, as usual, took my meds. Mariana made coffee. We sat on the porch, sipping coffee and watching the sun rise. We didn't talk much. We just sat there, together, present. And out of nowhere, she looked at me and smiled. That smile that made me fall in love with her 50 years ago, but that I'd stopped noticing somewhere along the way. And in that moment I thought, this is it. This moment, this quiet, this presence, this person beside me. This is all that ever mattered. And I wasted decades not noticing. You think you have time. We all do. But let me tell you a secret you already know but pretend not to. You don't. Your parents don't. Your kids growing up faster than you realize don't. The person you love, the one you take for granted, doesn't. Nobody does. Time is running out for all of us every second, every minute, every hour. And the only question is whether you're going to wake up before it's too late, or whether you'll do like I did and waste most of your life to only understand when there's almost nothing left. So make your choice right now, today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down. Because those things never calm down. Life keeps pulling you in a million directions, and before you know it, you're 75, dying, wondering where all the time went. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this story touched you deeply. Maybe you're seeing your own life reflected in my words. Maybe you're starting to realize you're making the same choices I did, making the same mistakes. You're not alone in this. This channel exists precisely for people like you, people who want to wake up before they get their own diagnosis, before the doctor says, "Time's up." Subscribe here to get more real stories, more lessons that I and others learned too late, truths that can save you decades of regret. Hit like if this video made you reflect, even if it hurt to hear, and please tell me in the comments what you're going to do differently starting today. Are you going to call your parents? Are you going to hug your kids for real? Are you going to look at the person you love and really see them? I'd love to read your story and know that somehow my words helped someone avoid the same mistakes I made. The clock is ticking for all of us right now. Every second you spend reading this is a second less. And the only question that truly matters is this: what are you going to do with the time you have left? Because one day, and it might be tomorrow or 50 years from now, but it will come, you'll be where I am now, looking back, doing the math, realizing all you've squandered. The only difference is, maybe, if you listen to what I'm telling you, when that day comes for you, you'll have fewer regrets than I do. Maybe you'll be able to look back and see a life truly lived instead of a life wasted waiting to live. That's my hope for you. Don't make my mistakes. Time doesn't come back.